Hi. So today I have for a masterclass on management consulting a Kolkata chap, Utsav Patodia is from ISB, and he's here to take us through very specific pointed questions related to this storied world of management consulting. It's a rich and prosperous world with its own share of pros and cons. And one of the pros, for example, is that he's just had his breakfast at the Trident. Normally, you would go there like once a year or once in 2 years, but here he goes there almost every weekend, either the Taj or the Trident. So that's the kind of luxurious life that one gets entitled to the moment you enter the storied world of management consulting. Welcome to the show. What's up?
Thanks a lot for having me here, Anurag, and thanks a lot for the storied introduction. I've sort of grown up watching your videos and being mentored by you as in capacity of a student in Don Bosco Lilua, then moving on to St. Xavier's, and even during my IPCC days. So glad to contribute in whatever way I can. And
Yeah.
to all the viewers, guys, Anurag is acting all humble, but even Anurag has very similar lifestyles.
Or of course not. Well, lifestyle is not there. Yeah. Okay. So, Utsav, I'll give you very specific, pointed questions, okay, related all to the world of management consulting. So, the first question is, how does one get into this world of management consulting? Through the CA route, through the MBA route, which campuses do they go? How does one apply? What is the interview process? What is the typical ratio in which they accept applications and select people? And does it vary across different firms? So, where are the firms that you work off campus, on campus? Please take us through that.
Super, super. Thank you so much for that question, Anurag. And I think it's a very valid question. So I'll probably structure that answer into a couple of buckets. So one is the undergrad pool, second is the postgrad pool, third is CA, because I mean, I'm keeping it aside of the undergrad and postgrad because it's debatable whether CA is considered undergrad or postgrad. And fourth is off campus, right? Off the target campuses. So within undergrad, when we look at the target campuses, we have the usual suspects in DU, which is Shriram, then LSR, Hansraj, Hindu, and I think probably even Stephens. Yes. So in those campuses, I think if I look at the gamut of consulting opportunities, you will have both front end and back end roles coming in. So in front end roles, typically the top 10% of the profiles are shortlisted in terms of academics and extracurriculars. And again, so before again going ahead with this answer, I must mention that a lot of getting into consulting is not just brilliance; it's also a function of luck. You have to be in the right place, right time, right? So if you're in the target campus, and let's say you have solid extracurriculars, solid academics, and the consulting firms do take note of your resume, right? And they get shortlisted in the first place. So your chances of sort of converting that shortlist typically becomes 30-40% if you're in the target campus. And typically for the commerce pool, it's the DU campuses, the marquee ones. And for the non-commerce pool or the engineering pool, you have the top IITs and the bits of the world, right? Then there's the pool which is neither commerce nor engineering. So in economics, you have Ashoka University, where a lot of hiring is sort of starting to pick up. And then slowly and steadily, they're also going to campuses like NIFT, then places like MICA. These are all people who are going to bring in
Artistic
fresh
people.
perspective to problems. Yeah, these are all creative people who are going to bring in fresh perspective to problems, right? So yeah, in terms of the undergrad pool, those are the campuses. In terms of postgrad pool, I think the usual suspects again, the top three IIMs, even in fact all the IIMs pretty much these days. Then the ISB, XLRI, right? And so the mix of the campuses sort of varies across the respective consulting firms. Now, if you look at a McKinsey, it will go to only IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Lucknow, ISB in terms of visiting the campus and even Jamnalal Bajaj. But when it comes to recruiting people, it will also recruit people from some of the other campuses through their own batch day process. Then, in terms of some of the other firms like BCG, because they've expanded so much and so quickly, they've gone to MDI, IFT, and all the other campuses as well. Again, so here as well, the process of getting in is very similar. You be good in terms of you just try and distinguish yourself in terms of grades, extracurriculars, positions of responsibility. And again, I'd probably catalog it as a function of both brilliance and luck, right? You have to be in the right place at the right time. Firms like LEK and some of these boutique firms like Arthur D. Little, Monitor Group, the Parthenon Group, because they're so small in number, they typically go only to a campus like an IMA, B, C, ISB, because they don't need to hire further, right? So their demand sort of gets met from these
Not
small
volume
campuses.
game that they play.
Exactly, exactly. And they are some of these boutique consulting firms, they operate in niches. So an ADL would be really good in the TMT space. An LEK consulting would be really good in education space. The MBBs, they try and operate across the spectrum, right? Big Fours, the way they try and sell consulting projects is that we'll do consulting work for you. We'll also do diligence work for you. We'll also do some of the HRDD work for you, right? So they try and sell it as an entire sort of
And at
a
a lower
value chain,
cost.
and at a lot lower cost, as you very rightly mentioned, right? So, I mean, that's the entire dynamics from the supply side. But the third, which is the most interesting route, is the CA route. How do you get into management consulting as a CA? And why it's interesting is because it's changed quite a bit, right? Over the past, I think, 4 years back, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because CAs were generally not recruited by some of these management consulting firms. But now, looking at the talent, the rigor of the course, these firms have realized that they were really missing out on a solid pool of smart people. So now, some of the CA rank holders, and apologies for again this categorization, but the hard reality is that this categorization exists, especially for consulting. Whether you are a rank holder, whether you are in the first attempt or in the second attempt, or what kind of firms have you gone when it comes to articleship, where have you done your industrial training. So all of these gamut of sort of objective metrics eventually end up building your profile, and whether that gets shortlisted or not. But so from the CA route, I think most of the mature consulting firms hire. So you will have a McKinsey, BCG, Bain hire from there. Some of these boutique firms are yet to explore that path, right? But your chances of making it to consulting become a lot higher if you just do a target MBA, right? So if you are a CA and you try and get into MBB, yes, there is a chance, but you will have to compete in that CA pool. But as soon as you get into the target MBA schools, right, your IIM, ABC, ISB, IIM Lucknow, and the likes, what happens is you eventually fall into the diversity pool, which is the non-engineering pool, and your chances of getting into consulting increase dramatically. So that's the CA route. Now coming to the non-target schools, right, which is neither CA, non-IITs, right? There, I think a lot of it is a function of whether you got some sort of a President's Award or you got the Rhodes Scholarship. So all of these sort of how do you say, kickbacks in your resume, and we call it spikes in the world of consulting. And you apply through the off-campus route. You fill up a form. It's a very straightforward form. You upload a cover letter, a resume, and if it gets shortlisted, just get shortlisted. But the chances, again, this route is a relatively less explored route because, again, from the recruiter standpoint, most of their demand gets filled up from the campus routes, especially in a country like India.
Hmm. Okay. And what typical life of a consultant? So a typical day in the life of a management consulting. Take us through that. What time do you wake up in the morning? How's your day? When does it end? Weekends?
I'll tell you what time I should wake up, but I'm not waking up. Ideally, guys, one should wake up at 6 a.m. Check their emails, see if there's any firefighting to be done, or an urgent call at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. that needs to be looked into. If not, then try and catch a run, come back, take a bath, reach office by 8:30 a.m. or log in if you're working remote that day, and ensure that you have your catch up with the manager or your principal, and the entire problem is broken down into sort of work streams which can be allocated to either yourself or the associates who are sort of very close to the content, right? So once that allocation is done between 8:30 to 9, you start having calls with all your associates whom you allocate work to, and you tell them exactly what to do. So then the secondary research starts, the primary research starts. Then the next 2 3 hours is just inside building, right? And let's say in the fourth hour, right pre-lunch or just after lunch, there's a catch-up call with the manager to understand what have we done in terms of our secondary research and primary research. And if the manager is fine with it, the story is working out all well, Then in the next 2 3 hours the slides are built, and in the next day we have a case team meeting with the partner, and it's presented to the partners. Now, yeah, I removed all the glamour part and all this. The lunch will happen in a very good 5-star hotel at times. You will not get to enjoy the food because you are under pressure. You will be going to the hotel with a laptop, right? So it will mostly be a working lunch. Likewise, the next day the meeting with the partner will happen in a very fancy place, but again you will not enjoy the view as much if you think that the work is not done and there are gaps in the analysis. So I think it's a good day in consulting is when you start and end on the same calendar date. But there are times when you have to stretch, and it but I would feel, having spent so much time in consulting, you stretch only when the team is not aligned, and there is a very sort of abrupt change in storyline, or let's say the client says something totally different, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't say this hype around zero work life balance, absolutely insane work hours. It's there, but it varies from team to team, manager to manager, project to project, situation to situation. I'd say it's very erratic. There will be times of mad work pressure, and there will be times when you will just be working on proposals, and you will take the day very light, right?
But won't the client also be after you because they're charging through the nose? So in terms
Yeah,
of the first draft, maybe a lot of clients will say, if this is what it is, then why did we hire you? And then they,
absolutely. Absolutely, Anurag. So, I think the first meeting, which is the kickoff meeting, is very important with the client. In that kickoff meeting, very solid expectations are set that this is what we are going to deliver by this timeline. And after that, the process of interviewing clients and the various stakeholders start, right? So, in that process of interviewing clients and the stakeholders, you get a soft sense of how they are thinking about the problem, right? So that your solution is not completely off from what they are thinking, or if it is off, you have data to back it up, right? So I think a lot of it is also the playing that psychological game of understanding what the client wants and how do you package it very differently. I think I'll jump to one of your questions, that would be that why do typically people hire consultants, right? So a client would hire consultants for maybe benchmarking. So let's say an Infosys is hiring a McKinsey because they want to understand what is the best practices that we can take from a Wipro or from a TCS, right? And they would not have that data, but McKinsey would have that data because they've done very similar work for a Wipro and TCS. McKinsey would not give that data in a specific form, but in an aggregated form, they can definitely do that benchmarking.
is
Whether
that not governed by NDAs then?
exactly, so that data is governed by NDAs in a specific form whenever you're labeling it with the client. But as soon as you aggregate that data, I don't think it's governed by NDAs.
Ah, okay. So that's a smart way to put it around. And
Yeah. And again, I'm taking McKinsey's name, everybody does it. So it's just
yeah,
across
I
the
mean,
spectrum.
anyone would, so they would represent like the top median of IT firms in our populace, which would
Exactly.
be just Wipro and TCS, but they will not name it, but rather put it the other way around to
Yeah.
circumvent the
Yeah.
NDAs. So that's one
Absolutely.
benchmarking. What else do you do?
The second thing, Anurag, is a lot of it is actually trying to sell a solution to the layer above. So let's say a CFO wants to sell a solution to the board, but the CFO knows that, just because he or she is saying it, the board might not agree. So they would want uh, a top tier consultant to just agree with whatever the CFO is saying and give a more data backed, pretty slide solution to the CFO, so that the board agrees that, what, even the consultant has vetted it. We were also thinking the same line. So now tell us what to do. So
Then you are
that's
kind
also,
of putting the rubber stamp.
yes, that is when you do some sort of branding work. I would not disagree. The third part is when you don't have alignment, and this happens a lot in conglomerates. So all the conglomerates operate in silos, right? An ITC sales team is thinking that we just want to increase sales, we'll keep giving discounts. But the marketing and branding team is thinking that we cannot keep giving discounts because it just dilutes the brand. The finance team is thinking in a different direction. So all of them are thinking about their own goals, own KPIs, which are not aligned to the overall goal of increasing the share price, and which we are observing, Anurag. The share price is what it is. So a
Of
lot of
course,
it
that
is
has
also,
corrected a bit now, means
yes,
in terms
that has
of, right?
corrected quite a bit now. So a lot of it is alignment as well. As soon as you hire an expensive consultant, The organization is on their toes, everybody is in an attentive position, and they are ready to listen to you. And when you get them on calls, they come and they listen to you, right? And because you are representing the board in some way as a consultant, or you're representing the CEO's office, so that authority just helps you get that alignment. The other part is, again, coming to the rubber stamping part. In whenever we do private equity deals, a lot of it is trying to sell whatever the private equity firm is thinking internally to the investment committee. So the KKR says that we want to invest in this school, but to take it to the investment committee and ensure that the investment committee agrees, KKR will recruit a Parthenon, and Parthenon will be like, yeah, let's invest in the school. And so just because Parthenon agrees, and even KKR agreed in the first place, the investment committee says, fine, it's a tick, and you put in the money, right? So even that part comes in. So again, the rubber stamping and the branding bit comes in there.
But yeah, what happens is that there is also a document that is prepared, which very elaborately endorses that decision. So it's not like someone's whim or fancy, but rather a lot of structured work that is done to back up that thing.
A lot of primary research goes into it, Anurag. So we will, if let's say we are investing in a school, right, we will go to the extent of talking to the principal of the school, the teachers of the school, the past students of the school, the parents of the school, in an anonymized fashion, and understand what their consensus is about that school, right? Do some sort of sentiment analysis, a bunch of other analysis, right? Compare other schools on the same metrics. So there is a lot of data-backed decision making that's done. Yes, a lot of it at times is, as you mentioned, it's to back a particular conclusion, but a lot of times it goes against that conclusion also, and people are okay with it.
That's interesting. So, and then when such situations happen, that the mandate was to recommend X, but the data is saying Y, then how do you come to a conclusion? A lot of people will be very rigid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is the time when we just stand our ground. That, see, the survey is saying this. You can, if you want, we can do another expert call. We can have another survey, right? So maybe there's this boiling the ocean and analysis paralysis, and maybe we go to the extent of them paying us a little extra because we are spending time on another survey. So we'll do that, and we'll just keep it this way, that if another survey also yields the same result, then fine. We're just going with this result, and we'll have our stamp of independence here, right? So again, this varies from firm to firm, culture to culture, practice to practice.
But then one would then want to shop between different firms and try to use that opinion which matches that of their own.
Happens, Anurag. Happens quite a bit. I've seen that, and I'll not name the firms, and I'll not name the deal in which it happened. But in one of the healthcare deals, a marquee firm was recruited. Their opinion was completely against what the PE firm was thinking, and the PE firm was under pressure to deploy the money because they were sitting on the cash for quite some time. So they wanted a positive opinion. They recruited another firm, got a positive opinion, and the game's over.
I've seen this happening with credit rating agencies, with auditors. People just say that, boss, either fall in line or be replaced. But even in the management consulting world, and how big are the stakes? As in, what is the typical billing rates for a consultant, a senior consultant, just to show the magnitude of this whole story?
Yeah, so in terms of billing rates, again, it'll vary from firm to firm and the kind of geography that you're working in. But I would say $1,000-$1,500 per day we are billing to the client if a post business school grad is working, right? So his per day cost or her per day cost to the client would be 60,000-70,000.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yes, that's the typical billing rate. And for a partner, it's just, on a typical case, a partner bills only for 20-25 hours. And per hour, the billing rate can go as high as 4 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 4.5 lakhs, right?
Per hour?
Yes. I mean, see, so this is all,
My
a lot of
God.
it is
Even it's, let's
theoretical.
say, 1 lakh per hour, but it is that high.
Yes, it can go that high, Anurag, because I mean, see, the thing is, they might end up spending 20-25, more than 20-25 hours, but they do charge only 20-25 hours to the client. So that's the contour that we need to be mindful of. But yes, 1
So
lakh
maybe
is
the
not unheard of.
whole billing therefore would run into, let's say, 3-4 crores on a project.
Yeah, in fact, 3-4 crores is a very, very short ticket size project. If you look at McKinsey in India, they will not accept a project which is less than 2 crores in billing. Uh, and that to Indian, like imagine an Indian client paying 2 crores just for advice, right? So there is
And
something.
that would be like what duration projects? 3 months, 6 months?
That would be a 3 to 4 week project
3 to 4 weeks.
maximum.
That's it.
That's it. Yes.
And 2 crores.
Yes.
Now I
Yes.
can understand this world, why the stakes are so high. And
Yeah.
therefore,
Yeah.
everyone is under tremendous pressure. Client under the pressure to extract value from you, you
Yeah.
under pressure to deliver value and get the client sign off. Partner wants his
Yeah.
bonuses, the firm wants the brand.
Exactly. Exactly. And a lot of it is Anurag. The thing is, over the years, the way the firms have branded themselves, right, is they've branded themselves as people who hire very smart people, and it's up or out. So in 2 years, either you get promoted or you're let go, right? And the people who are in the system then automatically get branded as really smart people, and the people who are let go eventually move to a mid strategy role in a startup or a mid strategy role in an industry, and eventually climb up the ladder and very soon enter into the board of that industry or that company, right?
Hmm.
And as soon as you enter into the board, that in you are still very proud of your consulting alumni. You call yourself an MBB alum, right? So if you're in the board of a Tata and you're an MBB alum, the first consultant that will come to your mind would be MBB, right? So so MBB will never run out of clients because they have this network of sort of Fortune 500 CEOs who are ex MBB alums across the world,
Yeah.
right? So they are sort of filling in the gap, both from the talent point of view, from the business school, and they are putting them in their clients.
Yeah, and I have even seen that, for example, that if someone is like from formerly MBB, they will want to recruit even people from MBB into their teams.
Exactly,
So sometimes
exactly.
the whole team moves from, let's say, an MBB to a Tata or a Godrej
Yeah,
or a Birla.
yeah. So there are VCs who have this discrimination that if you are from an MBB, only then we look at your startup, right? There are some VCs, obviously not all, but it definitely adds to your credibility.
Interesting, very interesting. And so, like, what are the perks associated with this job? And what are the days where you wish that you, oh my God, this is like not what I had signed up for. I want something else out of my life.
Oh, very fair question, Anurag. And been there, done that quite a lot of times. So I think I'm in some position to answer it. In terms of perks, yes, we get whenever, there's this notion that we only travel business class. That's not true. If business class is only for specific long duration flights. Other than that, whenever you're traveling domestic, you're traveling economy. And yes, stays vary between staying in guest houses to staying in five-star hotels. In boutique firms, you typically stay in five-star hotels because they don't have that guest house infrastructure. In your typical MBBs, some of them you stay in guest houses when you're working in metro cities. Or if you're working in remote client locations, you stay in their guest houses where also you are very well taken care of. But there is no other option. You have to be well taken care of because you are working 15 to 18 hours a day. You have to have a bed which is well made when you come back and lay your head on it, right? And when you go back to office at 8 a.m., you need to ensure that the breakfast is there at 7 a.m. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. That leverage doesn't work. So that part gets taken care of very well. And the perk associated with that, a collateral perk, is that you get a lot of hotel points which you can use for personal travel and personal vacations. So you don't have to pay for if you have done like two projects back to back, your one week of vacation in a five-star hotel is sort of sponsored, right? Including your flight tickets. So the points are a great perk. Apart from that, Anurag, as I mentioned, the network is a very good perk, especially for people who want to do startups, right? It's very easy to find someone who is like-minded, who is very driven, very smart, and the third part, though it's not a very good way to think about it, but is that as soon as you have this brand, it's easier to get a VC funding. So automatically, that also becomes a perk, right? So that brand sort of it just sticks with you for quite some time. It's like that MBA tag. It's a very good finishing school for a lot of us. So yes, wouldn't deny that.
And the regret part?
The regret part, yes, at times when you don't end your day in the same calendar date, but that is also still not too bad if you're really working on an interesting problem. But there are times when your team is doing everything that they could in their disposal, but still the partner is not satisfied, or still the client is not satisfied. Then there are times when you end the project with a very good solution, but the client doesn't end up implementing it. They just wanted that solution because they wanted a piece of paper to present to the board, right? So it's just frustrating because you put in so much of effort and you don't know what happened to that pet project that you were a part of, right? For example, I'll give you one. um, I mean, it was one of the projects that we did for the Saudi Arabia government, and it was about setting up an accelerator, a startup accelerator in a new city that was coming up. We worked really hard, and we spoke to a bunch of accelerators in Singapore, a bunch of VC firms across the world. We figured out how a typical accelerator should work, how incentive alignment should work, how to get demand, how to solve for supply, and we got the agreement signed with some of the partners, but they just shelved off the project because apparently their priorities had changed by then, and they had loads and loads of money. So it was very frustrating for us because we thought that we will have our name in newspapers when this accelerator comes to light, but it didn't work out that way.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So it's actually a very high level corporate politics also that is at play in this.
Absolutely, absolutely. But for a young professional, Anurag, I think the skills that we learn is
Hmm.
downward management, upward management, right? You're managing principal partner every day, or your manager every day telling that this is not possible, or this deadline that you've said is maybe not possible. We need to push it by another hour. You're managing your associates every day, saying that you have to do this. If you're thinking about it this way, maybe think about it the other way as well. So managing upward, managing downward, trying to sell. It's a very intensive soft skill and a hard skill combination that you have to bring to your job every day. And as soon as you're not consistent with it, it starts to show that gap starts to show in the project when manager asks a question and the consultant can't answer it, but the associate has to answer it, right? So that lack of leverage seems to show, which is what again makes it a little frustrating at times because you have to be at the top of your game every time, right? Which is something that you wouldn't want to do. At times, you just want to do clerical work or just chill for a couple of days in a week. Doesn't happen that way.
And if you have to quickly tell me, like, what are the numbers in terms of the CTCs that one can think of at a partner level, at an entry level? Just quickly.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I'll give you some aggregated figures and not name the consulting firms. Um, the Okay, at the partner level, they can vary quite a bit, but on an average, it would not be surprising to have someone at a junior partner making 4 to 5 crores per annum. At a principal level, you make 1 to 2 crores easily. At an engagement manager level, you are sort of touching a crore. At a consultant level, you are touching 50 to 70 lakhs. Again, a lot of variable component comes into play. At at a level which is just out of MBA, you are touching, I think, again depends from firm to firm, but 30 to 45 lakhs. And at a level that is at an undergrad level, I'd say right out of your undergrad school, I would say the numbers would be between 20 to 30.
Hmm, interesting. And
Yeah.
exit opportunities, as you said, is that even if you don't want, if you're not wanting to move up the ladder, you can move up to mid-tier firms or to industry or VC. Then that's where a lot of people find their eventual
Yeah. So
destination.
exit opportunities, Anurag, they're actually very different from undergrad versus postgrad, right? People who join from undergrad, they get exit opportunities to top tier MBAs. ISB will not bat an eyelid and not hesitate to have you in their program. Likewise for IMABC, likewise for the Harvards and the M7s, right? And that's very good. That's a very good exit for them. Then they have a P route that they can take, exit to private equity firms, and then I think investment banking stops once you get into consulting because you are outside the finance domain, sort of, and get more into strategy. But still, eventually, investment bankers also want to get into private equity, so the exit eventually opens to private equity and not investment banking because it's eventually a path to PE. Other than that, you move to startups in chief of staff roles where you're directly working with the founder, or you work in industry with the strategy officer's office or the CEO's office. right? A lot of industries have structured programs for it. Or maybe you can move to a venture capital firm. So I think consulting just helps you delay the question, what do you want to do in life? And you can, at any point in life, whenever you are like, yeah, this is my passion and I want to do it, and I don't want to lose the years, then you will get that advantage of the years that you spend in consulting, because you will be pegged at the same seniority level, and you can just pick and choose whatever options you want.
This is amazing. So to get in there is difficult, to survive there is difficult, but once you get out of it, it's a very
Yeah,
different world.
and exactly, Anurag. And even when they, let's say, let people go, right? Uh, they take pride in letting people go, and then they set out outposts for placements. Whenever an MBB would let people go, they will actually call up their alumni in other firms and tell them that this guy, this girl is super smart. You should interview them. They want to come to you. Take them. In minutes, they have an offer, right? Or maybe in days. So it's a different world once you get in.
Wow. I hope this consulting world masterclass really inspires a lot of people to move the extra mile and try to get into these places if they are up for this entire package. So it does not come in piecemeal. So the happiness and the
Yeah,
sadness both will come together. But I think
yeah.
it's transformative in nature. And a lot of people will really relish in that. And I've seen a lot of Calcutta guys or other people, and a couple of them have already come on this channel. It's a very interesting place to be. Any final thoughts? 30 seconds.
So in terms of final thoughts, Anurag, I'll just mention that a lot of people start doing case prep right after they join undergrad, and they're like, we have to do case prep, otherwise we can't make it to consulting, or we have to do this extracurricular activity, otherwise we can't make it to consulting. But I would say your north star to get into consulting would be an objective metric. And at an undergrad, postgrad, or wherever you are studying, an objective metric is always your grades. So you should always aim to be in the top 10% and then think about anything else. If your top 10% is not working out and you are doing really well in your extracurriculars, then it's all, in most cases, it's a waste. So be in the
Mhm.
top 10%. If you think that that part is sorted, then you start going into extracurriculars. And after that, you start doing case prep. Case prep comes in only when you get shortlisted.
Yeah.
Don't do it, don't jump the gun and do it before shortlisting, because then uh, like people just get into depression because they think that they've prepped so hard, but they still didn't get in, right? So that is something that I want to say, and this is a very counterintuitive advice. Most people won't say that because they're running their own case preparation businesses. So, which is why I want to put that out there, that first focus on grades, then extracurriculars, and towards the end case prep.
Amazing piece of advice. Thank you so much, Utsav. And I'm sure people are going to really relish watching this interview. And if this really has helped you, please share it with your near and dear ones. Like this so that the algorithm knows that this content is really worth consuming. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Utsav, once
Appreciate
again.
it. Thank you so much, Anurag. Thanks a lot for having me
Okay.
here. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you.